Hey, you summoned a lesser maker. Today we're going to make some Wyrdstone. This is going to be really good for objective markers and maybe selecting certain parts of buildings that need to be investigated. Everything I use for this build could be found at the dollar store. I'm using a tea light as an example, but I also found some LED, really bright green lights on Amazon, and there'll be a link in the description. I started off by sanding these really well. That way, everything I did from here on out will stick to this. Especially for the tea light, plastic like this is really notorious for not sticking well to things, so this is a really necessary step. I found some crushed glass in the floral section. Initially, I just started gluing this down haphazardly and just kind of whatever way I wanted to, but this really wasn't the way to go. So for this first one, I was kind of going for a comet that hit the ground and like it was blasting out. And it just wasn't all that interesting. Kind of trying to stack them on top of each other, these shards, to kind of make these spikes. And they're super fragile at this join. So I'm kind of thinking if I mound them together, the glue bond will be better and I'll be able to make a different type of shape. So maybe if I kind of go for this sigmar like comet look, this might be a good option. I also want to make a huge one for my next Mordheim board, Mordheim Catacombs. My story behind the board is that they've found a giant meteor and are excavating it, and that's why all the battles are happening in that section. And so having a giant one in the middle, that one would be really cool. So we'll try that out too today. Now that I kind of know what I'm going for with that sketch and concept, it's a lot easier to shape these clusters into kind of a consistent shape, and there's nice variation between each one of them because the glass shards that I'm pulling from have a lot of variance in them, so each one ends up being different. But you just kind of add a mound, and I tried to cover the bulb in its entirety with super glue gel and these shards, and then I just put 2 spikes on the top to add to that silhouette. And I think these look really cool, and I was really happy with the amount of light that was coming through them. Since I have you here, it would help me out a lot with my small YouTube channel if you liked, commented, and subscribed. I'm less than 50 subs away from 2,000 subscribers, and lately I've noticed that YouTube videos that don't get comments, YouTube will just stop recommending it. I make a Mordheim video every week, and I've been doing it for about a year. So if this video hasn't earned your sub, feel free to check the backlog out. Know for a fact one of those definitely will. So let me know which videos you like in the comments, and I'll be sure to make more of them. So I just finished the tea light, and I was able to make the cluster bigger, but I didn't like the yellow light shining through. So to solve that and to color all the blue shards green, I got Orc Skin Army Speed Paint because it's a clear paint, and I just coated the whole thing with speed paint. I'm going to do a texture paste later, and so doing a speed paint before I did the texture paste was a good order of operations because the texture paste could go over the speed paint and not ruin it. The LED green tea lights have a twist switch on them, so I masked that off with blue tack. And then I just made a texture paste with paint, sand, and Mod Podge. And I did put some larger rocks in there, but I ended up taking those out. And then I just put the texture paste all over everything. So now it's time for the big boy. I got a mini round bowl from the Dollar Tree, and I trimmed off the lip on the bottom, and then I sanded everything flat. And this diffuses the light and allows the super glue and hot glue to adhere to it. So I used super glue gel, and I did find some more green gems this time, and both of them worked fine. I do kind of like the green ones a little better after the speed paint, but I went over and I tried hot glue this time, and I was still placing them individually, which didn't really work. So I went back to super glue and I just placed them just like I was doing one of the smaller ones. This took a long time, and I wasn't really happy with using the super glue, and I was running really low with it. The fumes weren't great either, to be honest, but I just did it on rows and rows, and I tried to fill in the gaps in between the rocks with the super glue gel, and eventually I got the whole thing done. After getting everything covered with the crushed glass, I decided to go back to the hot glue when I was doing the fins to get the silhouette I wanted correctly. So what I did was I got a bead of hot glue and I just ran it along the edge around the height I wanted the fin, and then I just rolled it into the crushed glass, and then to really stick the crushed glass into the hot glue while the hot glue was still hot, I just would smush it back into the hot glue, and it made a really thick bond. After each fin was established in shape, I went on to the side of each fin, and then I just reinforced it with more hot glue. To get the spikes that I wanted, I put a sharp end with super glue and kind of poked it out. That way it was in the spot I wanted, and it wasn't flexible and couldn't chip off. And then I just went back in with some army speed paint, orc skin, and I did mix a little black on this one, but it was basically the same. And I just coated the whole thing. Really easy, really simple. I think I did all of these in maybe 3 hours, and it wasn't hard at all. And the light shines through them really well, and I expect to use this a lot, and it's going to look really cool. The last step is I went over with a really thick coat of matte clear coat, and that will make them super durable. So yeah, that's basically it. All right, so I think these will be really great as objective markers. There's a scenario in the rule book called Occupy, and you have to select a certain amount of buildings towards the center of the board to have predator hordes. And if you occupy them all, then you win the scenario. Having glowing objective markers will help you remember where things are and remember which buildings are selected, but it will also allow you to pick things that aren't buildings, like landmarks, like this statue over here, or this wide open area. Having an objective marker that's not an enclosed area like a building really changes up the gameplay and adds a lot to a board that's fixed rather than modular. So hopefully that helps you out. I think people are afraid to make their buildings part of the board. They want to be able to place them around. I think each way is valid. I kind of like the art form of making everything integrated, and it kind of makes everything seamless. It looks good in pictures, and it's just how I like making Mordheim terrain. But maybe that's not for you. Either way, I think these are just so dang easy that you might as well make these. If you want these tea lights that glow green, there's going to be a link in the description. The dollar store tea lights did better than I expected, but it does lack a little bit as far as light, and it just glows yellow because the light is yellow. This other one is going to be perfect for my other Mordheim board I've been designing called the Mordheim Catacombs. And if you're not aware, I've been working on a Mordheim Catacombs board for basically 2 months. I've been designing STLs, and my Patreon members can download those early, but eventually they'll be free for everyone to download. And Patreon is just a way of supporting these weekly videos. So I hope you're looking forward to that, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Remember to comment and like and subscribe. It goes so far to help my small YouTube channel reach other corners of the internet. So thank you for that, and I hope you have a good one.